how would you describe it to someone?
So it's a physical movement practice that opens up the energy in the body. And it opens up the energy in the body. And when that happens, the emotions are released, the thoughts stop, or they start to slow down, and that we come into realization with who we are. We connect to our self, our higher self. We connect to our soul. We get a moment, we get some presence, but we needed to release everything from our body. We increase the ability to feel. That's what happens when someone does this practice. That's the main thing that happens. That's why I created it. But there's a whole bunch of other results that happen from it. Like somebody becomes more flexible, stronger, cardio, endurance, their stress resiliency increases. All these other things happen. But the way that I designed it was for that one purpose. And so people will try it, and sometimes people just use it for other things. They use it because they just feel better, but they're not looking to get centered to themselves and access an awakened version of them. And it's okay. It's fine. It's just like that's how it will naturally evolve, just like yoga, right? People do yoga for all kinds of reasons now, but yoga was created to, when we say yoga, we mean postures, asanas. But that was created to increase the efficiency of meditation. Because when they were doing just meditating itself without the asanas, without the postures, they found that it was harder to get into a deeper state. The body needed to release. So then they started to come up with different postures called asanas, which is now just known as yoga for the general public, but people that understand yoga knows it's more than that, But that was the reason for it. But then now, the way that yoga became popular now is, you can have the yogic body, yogi do all these different awesome, cool moves, and it becomes more aesthetics and more everything else. It's okay. It's okay. Somebody may go, well, that's not the real spirit, but that's how things evolve. So we don't need to blame it. Nothing is wrong with that. So many people are introduced to it that they would not have been introduced to if someone goes, this is about enlightenment and spiritual awakening. Oh, well, I'm just looking at flexibility, so I'm not going to care about that. But they go, oh, cool, right, flexibility, yeah, okay. And then as they learn into it, they start to understand that there's deeper aspects to it. And that's been something I've been playing around with, seeing what else can I do to help people understand, help people see the other benefits. And there is a lot. I talk about flexibility, I talk about feeling good, but ultimately it's to help somebody awaken themselves. And they come to the realization of all the self-made identity, the manufactured self, which we call ego, but ego is a really loose term. It's not just ego. We need ego to operate in this life for desire. Mm-hmm. It's more of, let's just get out of being fear-based. Let's move towards being more loving. And then we can actually experience a higher quality of life. No mental problems and all that stuff.
Mm. So flow training, for those who don't know what it is, it's essentially helping to relieve stress in the body, relieve tension, and get them more centered within who they are, more aware of what they are, basically helping them wake up, essentially. Is that a good summary, would you say?
Yeah. And to give some context to it, it's 5 different methods of practice. The first one is tapping. Tap massage. We tap the body to release the energy. We tap the body to activate the nervous system. We tap the body to open up the blood vessels. We tap the body to open up the meridians, the nadis.
When you mean tapping, you just mean like literally just tapping yourself.
Yeah, literally tapping, literally doing this everywhere. Because you don't want one place to be open and not the other place to be open. All right? It's like, what part of your body do you want to be healthy? Come on, the whole thing. Right, then tap the whole thing. Somebody can sit on a chair and they can tap. Anybody can tap. Doesn't matter their age, doesn't matter skill set, doesn't matter anything. They can tap. That was one of the criterias. I wanted to make sure that anybody can do these things. So it doesn't matter their skill sets. Doesn't matter. You don't need to know how to tap good. Just tap. And if it hurts, tap softer. If it doesn't feel good enough, go harder. You can form your hands into all kinds of different things. There's a method. I learned this from a guy. I forgot his name, but in Chinese they call it pai da lodging, pai da tap, lodging, stretch. And that method, which was so effective that he got put into jail.
Really?
Just like all the other
put into jail for tapping.
Yeah, well, because he said it healed sicknesses and diseases.
He's making outrageous claims.
Yeah, and it's more like testimonials, but outrageous claims. Yeah. So I started learning about that because I learned into everything. I was like, okay, and I started to understand it. I started to do it myself, and my energy changed fast. Before, if I wanted to go ahead and get rid of the tension here, I had to do a yogic move. I had to get into a certain stretch. But now I can just literally tap it right now and be gone. That fast. Why do I need to get into a position and all this stuff when I can do it faster? So I started applying that method, and I started seeing how that method, that methodology was actually applied in a lot of different things. Massage is that element, but we are doing a different method. Instead of tapping, we press into the body, right? And then you dive into all the different massages. Then you get acupressure. Then you get acupuncture, which is basically using a needle to go right into the point versus acupressure going from the surface. And then you can combine that with like affirmations, combine that with like, expression. And then you have EFT, emotional freedom technique. So you start to look at all of these different things that people are using and you go, what is the universal thing that is effective?
Yep.
It's not the name, it's not the brand, it's not the stuff. It's what are they actually doing? You start to realize people are using a simple thing, which is using their body to physically impact the body. Hence, those machines, you go ahead and massage your body, right? It goes bop, 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 bop. You sit into a massage chair and it massages you. So we're basically, if we look at that and we go, how do we go ahead and use the principle of that to open up the body? See, there's so many powerful techniques out there, and we want to make sure that everybody can do it. We want to make sure it's simple to easy, that the learning curve is none, because there's too big of a learning curve. Then we start to segment certain people. They can't do it, but this anybody can do. Anybody can tap. So that was part one. And then, so there's all this different stuff. We start to tap everything, right? All the senses and all this stuff. And then we move into part two, strength training, so I was very familiar with that. And so that I used that to build muscle before, but now we use that to help open up the body because it's the same thing. It happens at the same way. We can get the blood to pump. We get the cardiovascular to increase, So there's lots that go into that, but that was the part I was most familiar with. And then we go into stretching. And so as we start to go through all the parts, stretching, we start to hit everything. It's not just stretch everything. There's a lot of things to stretch, but there is one area that you want to stretch more important than everything else. Not because all the other parts are tight, but they're not as important, but because we're trying to accomplish one thing: elevate your consciousness, open up your energy.
That's what you're trying to stretch.
Right. The spine.
I see.
Because that's the energy highway. Right. If you're trying to go ahead and move traffic from one end of the country to the other end of the country, you're going to go and clear out all the little streets, or you're going to clear out the biggest street and tell everybody to go on the big street. All right. That's the fastest way. You're not going to try to do all these little neighborhood routes. Biggest way, have them access the big way. And we look at all the energy centers. Everything has energy in our body, but let's access the main highway. And so all the stretches are designed to go ahead and hit the main highway from the spine, top all the way to the bottom. And so that's the stretching. So then I picked out the exercises that can hit that. And then we move into the next thing, which is breathing. Because now breathing, the breath can travel to places that the stretching couldn't hit, the exercises couldn't hit, and the tapping couldn't hit. But the breath will travel everywhere. But breath alone, without the others, is missing certain elements. So then we do breath at the end to kind of clean everything up, just as the end. Right. So we start off with the easiest simple thing, the tapping, and then we go and work the whole entire body, and then we stretch everything out. And I tried all these different combinations and all these different ways. First, put this here, over a long time. This format creates the most amount of opening of energy that I found so far. It's always evolving and changing. It's evolved over the last 2 years as I started to run a group online, and it's evolved some. But after breath, now your body's relaxed, all the excess energy is released. Without the excess energy in your body, and the body's energy is more still, the mind is really still. Now you're ready for meditation. If you didn't get to this state and you meditate, unless your mind is already still, you can't meditate. You just sit there and constantly think. And then time's up. So you basically just sat and closed your eyes and thought. But what you want to do is sit, close your eyes, and be still in your mind. So this way you can access your soul. You can access your higher self. You can access that knowingness, the intuition part of you. But you can't get to that point if your mind is not still. And you can't get your mind still if your energy is not still. If you got too much chaotic energy. If you're feeling anxious, you got to get rid of it first. So this way you can get into the preparation for meditation. It's like if you don't warm up for jiu-jitsu, you're going to hurt yourself, right? And if you don't warm up for meditation, it's not going to be effective.
Why doesn't anyone talk about that, the warm up for meditation?
So the people that are meditating, they do talk about that. They just warm up differently. When we do yoga, see, the people that don't look at yoga for the idea of waking somebody up, they do it for stretching, well then, doesn't matter then, right? But let's say somebody is going, I'm going to use yoga to go ahead and help wake up people, which there are many people that do. Then they wouldn't tell somebody just to go ahead and just meditate right away. They may go, okay, calm down, relax a little bit. And then now we're going to do different practices, like let's say Kundalini yoga, which you meditate kind of throughout, a little bit throughout. So this way you try to make the whole entire session into a meditation. That's one way of doing it. So it does exist already. But when we look at what people are wanting, we talked about dangling the carrot, the shiny thing, what can get somebody to go and do it? Why don't they just kind of breathe and just meditate and just keep meditating? Within 20, 30 minutes, you'll eventually slow down and then sit for another hour. Well, people want more than just a slow mind, a still mind. They want to be more flexible. They want to have strength. They want to increase their cardio, right? They want to let go of tension. They want other things along with feeling centered. And so that's why we do all of those other things, because those other things accomplish the desires that people are wanting. And it also allows them to be able to experience without even having that to be the real goal. They will still experience a stiller state of being. They'll experience more of their self, of their true self. And it'll happen by default, just as long as they don't skip the meditation at the very end. So sometimes people cut it short and it's fine. When somebody's ready for it, they'll do more of it.
So if someone's angry, like you had the anger, lots of issues with anger, if they're depressed or if they're anxious, or if they're overthinking about things, would you recommend they do flow training?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They need to let go of that emotion inside, and they can't let go of it in their mind simply by thinking about it. When they do, they just generate more emotion in their body, and they're just stuck in this loop. But when they
go.
But the thing is, they don't have to do a full practice all the time. People got lives, and not everybody is working out, an hour every day or longer. But if somebody was to do 7 minutes, that 7 minutes will affect them. That 7 minutes would move them in the right direction. It would clear 7 minutes worth of energy, of anger, and that helps. A lot of times people think it's all or nothing, and that idea, it doesn't work. For people like us that have been training, that we eat healthy, all this stuff, we know that every little thing contributes. And if we do a lot of the good thing, we get a lot of good benefits. If we do a little bit, we get a little bit. And sometimes we only do a little bit, and it's okay, because it's better than doing nothing.
So the emotions is interesting, because you said earlier that most people don't feel. And so a way to feel is to do flow training. right? So if I do flow training, I will improve my body's ability to feel. Is that correct?
Increase the ability to feel more. Some people will say, well, I am feeling, but they aren't able to feel deeper. They don't have a lot of awareness in their body. And flow training opens that up because we're using all these different methods to help them connect back to their body. So just like what we were talking about earlier, they're able to use their body to decide, to know what is right and what is wrong, what's a yes and what's no. And also, we didn't even talk about the health aspect, but all diseases can be healed if your body's circulation is open. There's a certain point to where the damage is so bad that if you open it, it's beyond the point of return. But a body can heal itself if it gets sick. But the only time it doesn't heal itself is if there's blockages of blood, blockages of energy, blockages of nutrients and the right chemicals going into the area. So that body needs to be default open. And if it is open, then we get to heal ourselves. No matter what, injury or sickness or anything that happens. There's 3 basic things for that, which is sleep, eating good, and movement. But then the other thing that people are starting to realize more is emotions. Our emotions will create blockages but that's on the energetic side, which is equally as important as the physical side. And so there's so many things to remember all this. So what do we do? So we just create really simple ways and make it easy for people to do it. But one by one, flow training is focused on the physical aspect. And when somebody is able to start to release these things, people that aren't eating right, people that aren't getting enough sleep, a lot of times the reason for all this stuff is in their head, because they can choose to sleep early or eat better, but they're emotionally angry, they got problems, all this stuff that start to go away because they're able to release it at the root instead of trying to think that they have a real problem and constantly be diving in thinking about this problem. But the real problem isn't the problem that they're thinking about. It's something else that's much deeper.
Yeah, absolutely.